I was just doing the pre-show.
Welcome to Transportation Committee, the first one from 2021, and the first one of our new life. So, as you have all heard, we have a
Hi, this is Rob again. It's the fifth time I've been knocked off since this meeting started.
Oh, sorry, Rob.
Is she talking to mute?
Christine, we're no longer hearing you.
Christine, there's a problem with your sound.
We're not hearing you at all. I wonder if you should.
She can't hear us.
I'm gonna text her. Dale, maybe you could just do the introductory formalities while she's logging back in.
Sure. Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everyone. Christine, are you back on? Oh, she's still having sound trouble. Okay. I'm just going to do some intros. Christine, my co-chair, is having audio difficulties. I'm Dale Corvino. I'm also a co-chair of the Transportation Planning Committee. We have committee members who are in attendance. We have Jeffrey LaFrancois, we have Viren, we have Martin Treat, we have David Warren, we have Sarah Appleton, we have Rob on the phone, we have Colin Wright, and of course we have Janine from the CB4 office. I might have missed somebody. If I did, speak up. And we have on the agenda that's been published previously, the first item being a presentation vote on an Intercity bus permit application by the company Adventures by Dawn at the location of 12th Avenue between 29th and 30th. Oh, and I see PT is here as well as a committee member. Who is presenting on behalf of Adventures?
I am Adnan Khan.
Oh, great, Adnan, thank you. So please proceed. Do you have visuals that Janine will be loading up for you?
Janine, I tried to do a screen share a little while ago, but it was disabled. I had sent you a PPT just a few minutes ago. So either I can share the screen, or if I'm not allowed to,
I think Janine will put it up for you.
Yeah, I'll put it up. You said you emailed it to me already? Oh, I see. I got it.
Yeah.
And Janine, can you bring me over, because I used the other connection?
No, you're in. We see you.
We can hear you.
All right, good. Well, that's a miracle.
Yeah, you're back, Christine. So I don't know if you were able to hear. I just introed the first item, and Adnan is about to present it.
Okay, so we created this quick PPT about a little bit of background about our company. I'll run through that fairly quickly. If you have any questions, just chime in anytime you want, just to give you a background on who we are, what we do, and what we're trying to do. I can't control this, right? So Janine, you're gonna have to kind of flip through the slides for me. So we are a transportation company. We've been in business since 1999, located in the DC metro area. Primarily, we do charter bus commuter runs in this area, also a lot of government contracts as well. So the couple first slides are just general information about what our mission is, what our core values are. This is what we tell all of our employees, and it's kind of stayed the same for the last 10 years. From a core value standpoint, this is kind of like for employees, but just give you visibility of what we stress from a company standpoint. I'll just pause right here for a minute. So like I said, customers and making sure that we strive for the success, communication, teamwork, innovation, and making sure that we kind of have the highest safety and security standards in the industry. We are a women-owned small motoring business. We have been running commuter runs in the DC metro area for over 10 years, charter buses for over 20. We do a lot of government work. I kind of mentioned before I guess we started that. We got White House, we do TSA, DHS, ICE, HUD, sorry, typo right there. We have Navy and we have the FBI. So those are kind of commuter type of runs, but employee shuttles where we're in the city moving every single day. From a New York standpoint, we do probably over 100 trips to the city every year. Mainly those are charters. We don't have any commuter runs into New York at the moment. So we can hop to the next slide. I think, I don't know, just a little bit of background about our operators and how we hire operators, the training that we do. We leverage online and all of our tools that we use from a safety, dispatch, maintenance standpoint. They're all integrated. And we take every driver through a 2-week course where they take a number of courses from a safety standpoint, from a eco drive, idling standpoint, and then there's numerous courses they take, and then also regular updates on a quarterly basis. But each one of our drivers, they average roughly 20 years experience, going from, I would say, up to probably up to Maine, down to Florida, mainly on the East Coast. We talked a little bit about our training and safety program. This is mainly from a customer standpoint, but our dispatch office is open 24/7, 365. We are also green certified. We were the first company in DC, in the DC metro area, to get green certified about 3 or 4 years ago by a University of Vermont program. If you could hop to the next slide. Just a little bit about our fleet. We don't run old buses. All of our buses average maybe 2 to 3 years old. Our oldest bus is a 2017. Our newest bus is a 2020. All of our buses have, the modern amenities, outlets, Wi-Fi, seatbelts. We know where they are at all times. They're all ADA accessible. We have a cleaning staff on site that makes sure they're clean. I think let's go to the next slide. Safety, insurance, and compliance. Due to all of the government contracts we have, we get audited almost on a monthly basis by somebody, whether it's DOT, DOD, various government agencies. Every month we're doing some type of audit. So we have to adhere to the highest security and safety requirements above and beyond what the FMCSA requires, just due to the nature of the business that we do. So from a certification standpoint, we have a number that many don't have. We also have internal audits that we do. We bring in a third party to do an audit just to make sure that if we miss on any of these, it just has a significant impact on our overall business. Every operator, they get rated on their safety compliance in terms of how they're driving, harsh braking, speeding. Our fleet-matic software allows us to record, and it automatically spits out any alerts or issues that we have. So going back to the technology and how everything's integrated, we try to make sure that we take safety and compliance is our highest kind of importance from a company standpoint. Not sure what's on the next slide. Green Initiative, talked about this a little bit, but we're the first motor coach company in the DC area to be green certified. It's by an independent program done by the University of Vermont. All of our drivers are required to take idle-free and eco-drive courses. We also track idling and eco-driving percentages, and whoever idles the least, they get the most amount of money. If the whole team idles less than our threshold, then everybody gets a bonus. The cleaning materials that we use in our office are all green friendly. We participate in Earth Day down here. We provided coach buses to DOT for that. We moved everything over to paperless, right? So no more work tickets, no more printing out stuff. Everything is all done electronically. We just replaced all the lighting. So a number of things that we do to kind of help the environment from a green friendly standpoint. Our oil and metal, everything is recycled as well. Next slide. Diversity. So just a little bit of background on our company is whether it's age, race, ethnicity, I feel that having a diverse team brings the best ideas that we have. So whether it's somebody who's young, old, male, female, whatever ethnicity you are. So we have a great mix, especially being in a melting pot. New York is very similar to DC. We do have a wide, diverse workforce, both in the office and from our driver field. So just want to give you a little bit more background on the company. Next slide, please. Maintenance. We spend a lot of time making sure that we take a proactive view into our maintenance. As I mentioned before, technology is important. And all of our buses are equipped with virtual technology. So as the engine or transmission or any bus component, as we get these newer buses, there's more electrical or sensor issues that we have than we actually have of any type of engine or transmission or tire issues. We get alerted, so we can act on that proactively. We do stringent checks every 5,000 miles. Obviously, pre and post trips, it's part of requirements, so that's done by every bus company, I would hope. Any issue that the drivers find is automatically integrated into our vehicle maintenance system, which is integrated into our dispatch system. So if there are any issues, that bus will not be used for that day. We have a team of mechanics that we send every year to get trained on the latest technologies or the latest innovations that the various manufacturers have. Our maintenance team probably averages, 30 plus years experience in the industry. Our senior ones or junior ones are, we try to mentor and train and promote from within. And then also we send our buses back up to the vendor, which is in Blackwood, New Jersey, and Van Hool just moved somewhere right outside of New Jersey. So we send them at least once a year up there just to have a different set of eyes look at it, just because we're all human, we all make mistakes, and make sure that we catch them before something bad happens. Next slide. Affiliations. We are a part of a number of different organizations and groups within the transportation industry. I just highlighted a few of those. UMA, ABA, we're part of a business group with companies all across the U.S. Where we share our business practices and best ideas. National Travel Association, and a number of other ones there as well. So just want to give background that we're an active member of our industry and participate in a number of different shows and affiliations and countless groups that help us with making sure that we run a safe and efficient operations. Next. Okay, so with COVID impacting our business, our charter business has pretty much dropped to zero in the last 8 months. As we look to rebuild, we're looking to kind of diversify. So as we come out of this, how do we have less of an impact? I don't think any of us could have planned for the impact that COVID had, but thankfully we have a number of government contracts that has allowed us to stay in operations. And we're looking to add to the community runs that we do locally to kind of get into the DC to New York market, and hence the application for the permit. The permit request that we have is to an area that is kind of like right when you enter the city, not trying to go into the neighborhoods too much. And there's a specific route that we'll take. We kind of outline it on the map, so that way we don't go too much in, just go to the edge, hop on, hop off. Therefore, an hour drop off at 1 p.m., pick up at 2 p.m., and head on out to minimize any impact it might have. And also the pickups and drop-offs hopefully are a time where that it's during minimal kind of pedestrian or other type of traffic, minimizing that impact as well. I don't know what's on the next slide. See what's there. So just kind of routes getting in and out from the Lincoln Tunnel. That's the route that we'll be taking. All of our drivers, what we do is when we do commuter routes, we have pre-built navigation routes in our driver application, so they have to follow that. If they deviate from that, it sends us an alert, so we're sure that these are the routes they will take, and then if not, then they'll call us if there's a diversion, street closure, something like that, then we get notified and get an alternative route. Next slide, please. So close to the Lincoln Tunnel, right? Not trying to go through any residential areas, minimal time on the streets, normal bus routes, and multiple routes kind of to the tunnel when streets are closed, so it's kind of easy in and out for the most part. So just a couple updates on the route notes there. I don't know what's on the next slide. Okay. Location that we are requesting a permit for is on 12th between 29th and 30th. It is a one-way street. The route that we'll take will be all one ways. There's a bike lane on the other side. We are a small operations. We don't, at the moment, maybe it'll grow, but we don't anticipate having more than one bus there. The passenger count will be, during COVID times, no more than 28, so allowing roughly half capacity. So it'll be quick in and out. no long-standing lines, things of that nature. What's on the next slide, please? The sidewalks are standard size. It's not an MTA bus layover, so it's not in a travel lane. There's a commercial bus lot adjacent to it, and when we kind of navigated this, we didn't see much foot traffic on the right-hand side of the street where we are going to request for a permit. Just a couple of notes on the loading and unloading times. We don't plan on selling any tickets there. Everything we want to try to do is going to be online, electronic-based, minimize any type of kind of paper or lengthy interactions. The bus will only be there roughly 15 minutes before loading, so minimizing any type of lines or congregation of groups that might be there. In the long term, if things grow, we may hire an attendant to help manage any traffic that might be there as well. Next slide, okay. At the moment, we only plan on running 3 schedules, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays only. 1 p.m. is when we plan to arrive, 2 p.m. departure, and from DC, there's a Metro Army station in DC. We'll stop in Columbia and White Marsh, and then head to New York, and then same route on the reverse. As travel picks up and we see the demand for people coming in and out, the goal is to run this once a day, 7 days a week. But for now, just Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think that might be it. So that's kind of overview of the company, what we're looking to do. Any questions or anything I can answer?
So let me go around. The way we do it is we go around the committee members first, and then we open it to the public. So committee members, I don't see any hands up. I know that Martin has a question. I have a first question, which is on your application, it shows that where is it? Yeah, in the safety operation by drivers in a dangerous or careless manner, there were 2 incidents in the last 12 months. Can you elaborate on that?
So our safety record, just let me pull it up real quick.
I mean, I wanted to know what kind of issues were.
Yeah, there was a driver who was speeding in one of our White House contracts. That driver is no longer with us. Actually, one driver had both issues, and that was the violation.
All right. The second question is, I got you, Dale. Martin is asking, how do you store electric scooter for ADA in the bus, or do you?
So each bus has 2 kind of ADA accessible areas. They all come with lockdowns. So we kind of strap them in and lock them down within the bus. So there's 4 tie downs on each bus, and the electronic wheelchair lift comes down. You put the, I'm assuming it's a motorized wheelchair, come on in, it puts it up, you go in, and it ties it down with 4 tie downs, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. And there's spot for 2 per bus.
Okay. All right. So Dale was next.
Thanks for the presentation. I have 2 questions. This location, I see, at least when I'm looking at the street view on Google Maps, I see buses parked there in their capture. Is it currently a layover, or is it currently a stop for other companies?
It's neither. Neither.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it's a stop for other companies to my knowledge.
No.
So it might be an informal layover, because right now, I mean, not right now, but at the time of the capture, there was an Academy bus, there were a couple of Academy buses parked exactly where you're proposing to go.
I think they may be doing it without a permit. Our goal is that if we do anything, like I said, compliance is super critical to us, because I can't jeopardize the 15 other contracts we have for, 1 run. But
okay, and this is the West Side Highway, so are we even, I mean, what are we doing with like a bus stop on the highway?
Well, don't forget the M12 does run northbound, and I believe there's an M12 stop, because this is just south of, Hudson Yards, and I believe there's a M12 stop at 28th could be at 29th Street. I can check the schedule right now.
I think
So
you're
the
every
city
day.
bus does stop.
I think it's actually a block down. And then my other question, I'm curious about your what you mentioned as your no idle program, because I'd love to bring this up with other operators. So is that meeting a specific municipality's regulations, or is it an industry? Is it something that was established by your industry?
Within DC, you can't idle for more than 3 minutes. If you idle for more than 3 minutes, I think it's probably a nationwide item too. You will get a fine. These fines go up to $1,000. And most of our buses are set. Now, you can idle loading and unloading, right? If you're not loading, unloading, you can't do more than 3 minutes. Our buses are set to, if you idle more than 15 minutes, no matter what, it will shut off on you automatically. We take a additional step to make sure that we comply with that, because every hour you idle, it burns roughly a gallon of fuel, and obviously costs money. So we track that. The drivers see it. We try to give them an incentive not to. When we put that program in place in 2016, from 2016 to 2018, it decreased the idling over 50%. And now everyone looks at it because, how do I say this nicely? Drivers want more money in their pocket, right? So we try to incentivize them to follow the rules, and everything that we do is green friendly, and it's helped us kind of grow from a marketing standpoint. That's how we do it.
Okay.
The software that we use is
That's
Softcon.
good.
It's readily available.
So in effect,
We got it.
in effect, it's in response to Washington D.C. regs, but you apply it to the company wide.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Jeffrey, next.
Thanks for this and the detail in the presentation. Have you considered that the bus ridership and demand for buses has dropped considerably, and the Port Authority may have vacancy? We don't like buses on the street, no matter whether they're on the West Side Highway or on an avenue or a side street. We do not generally support permitting curbside loading for buses. The city does it, unfortunately, because they haven't built a bus garage. Have you considered reaching out to the Port Authority to find out if they have a slot?
I would love to. That would be a primary goal. So we did reach out. The terminal is still full, and the waiting list is multiple years, 10 plus years.
So when did you help us a little bit? When did you reach out?
We reached out multiple times, I think, last year. We haven't done it recently in the last 30 days or so. Certainly we can do it again.
Could you do it again? That would we would like to know the answer.
Sure.
That would be very helpful. And I mean, do it somewhat formally, right? With the letter.
I feel like it's the best worst location. But I worry about the precedent this sets, given the sheer volume of companies that we hear from wanting to do curbside pickup. So that would be a really important thing to understand in terms of Port Authority right now. And maybe you said this and I missed it, I apologize. How many trips a day?
We're going to start with Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just one trip.
So
and then the goal
one
is
trip
to
a
do
day.
it once a day.
So one pickup, one drop. So is that like 2 uses of the spot per day?
Yes. So 1 p.m. drop off, 2 p.m. pickup.
Yeah, and you stay at the place during that hour, right? Okay. All
And
right.
my final question is, where do your buses live when they're not in? Where would this bus live when not in use? Do you have a yard or like a depot?
Yes.
Or a?
We have a depot about 10 miles outside of Washington, D.C.
Thank you.
Okay, Viren?
Sorry, I think Jeffrey already asked all the 3 questions I wanted to ask. So I'm good except for one question. Did you say all your buses are electric buses?
No.
They're not.
None of them are electric. Yeah. With the diesel emission fluid, kind of like a DEF kind of regulation, they're all 2017 or newer. So that they're not electric. I don't think the electric buses don't go more than, I think, 180 miles without a charge. So they're not electric yet.
Okay. Peter Diaz. I can't hear you, Peter. Unmute. Or you don't want to talk anymore? Hello? We can't hear you, Peter. Okay, David.
Hi, Jeffrey asked most of my questions. I have one tiny question, but I'm impressed with your green initiative, by the way. This is very parochial, very selfish of me. What type of bike, how do you transport bicycles? If I want to go to DC for 2 or 3 days, the way I'd get around is by bicycle. So do you have bicycle storage? Is there extra fee? How does that work?
So at the moment, how it would work is that we would put bike racks on the front of the buses. We haven't had a demand for that. So what we do typically is that in the rare cases we do, on the underneath storage bay, we have ties that we can kind of secure. Like let's say it might be musical instruments, it might be something else, and we kind of secure it underneath where the luggage racks go. Typically for the commuter runs, we don't think there'll be much luggage. If somebody coming up for a day or going back, so there's plenty of room underneath the bay. Each bay is about 4 feet high and 8 feet wide, so plenty of space to store a bike. But if we see demand, we'll put a bike rack in the front of the bus or the back of the bus.
Okay, Colin.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. And this might be, I guess, a little tangential to the main point of the discussion, but I wanted to elaborate on the accessibility. You had emphasized the tie down, and I'm curious, do customers have an option about whether to be tied down or not, or is that mandatory? And also, do operators receive training in ADA in terms of how to manage people with disabilities on the bus?
Yeah, so the
including tying them down.
The tie down is not optional. It's a mandatory requirement. All of our drivers get annual training on how to securely and safely onboard an ADA person in a vehicle. Also, they get training on efficacy. How do you handle them? How do you speak to them? All of our buses are ADA accessible, including all of our government contracts. So we test them every single day. ADA is a huge important factor in what we do. So yes, annual training, they get annual certification, it's required, and it's mandatory tie down.
Great. Okay, Brett Furfer. Brett.
All right, thank you. First, I just want to say this for all of our bus stop presentations. This was very comprehensive and very impressive. I do, Jeffrey. I'm gonna be the opposite of some of your comments. I actually like this as an interesting location. I think this is the first time we've actually gotten an application for a location along that West Side Highway like this, which basically means that we're going to get mass transit. That's cars off the street because people are taking mass transit, and the buses never have to go on our community streets. They're just going right on the highway and doing the pickup and then probably getting right back into the tunnel. So I think from that standpoint, this is a very interesting location. That sidewalk actually is rarely used. You can ride your bike on that sidewalk and nobody cares. But from that standpoint, and not that I'm recommending everybody ride their bike on any sidewalk, but this is just more, I'm posing this more to the community board as issues that this should be getting us to think about if we are thinking about bike lanes coming to the West Side Highway, because we would like this to be more of a smaller neighborhood street than a highway going forward. That's something for us to consider. How are we going to incorporate bike lanes and whatnot long term? And obviously that the city block that's currently being used for the truck parking eventually will get developed, but it's not going to happen for a while. So I think I do see this as a good location, and probably the volume that's being proposed is low enough that it probably is a good pilot to see if we like these sorts of sidewalks as locations for, you know, a mass transit location for these buses, given that Port Authority still is at capacity.
Okay, and I think I have, can you bring over Brian Kinzella, who wants to speak? Brian, you're on.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation. I was referred to reach out by Jesse, the district manager. I've been working with Marisa Rodanti and Holly Ann Devlin with some of the issues with respect to the Hell's Kitchen, Lower Hell's Kitchen, Northern Hudson Yards area. There's a bus stop at the corner, the southeast corner of 42nd and 9th. It's in front of a 99-cent pizza store.
Yeah, Brian, I got your email. It would be good if you could hold off a little bit, because right now we're talking about this subject and we'll put you into the new business.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't
No,
realize
that's
that.
okay. I was on mute while I was trying to explain what was the new business.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll hold off. Thank you so much.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem at all.
Christine, I just want to circle back to a couple of things that were raised.
Okay.
Which is, Jeffrey, you're right. There is a MTA bus stop, the M12. It's on the corner opposite, well, south of 27th Street, so it's 27th and 12th. And Brett pointed out that there is a kind of a fourth lane that the sidewalk dips where this is being proposed.
Right. Okay. So if I summarize what we heard here is that when would you start the service, Adnan?
That's a great question. We're doing some research on demand. Probably, you know, within 30 days or so. It also depends on what we see with COVID and if it.
And let me ask you a question. What is the base of your competition with the Megabus and the Bolt and all the other people which are doing the shuttle to Washington? How do you position yourself?
Yeah, there's a lot of competition. They're all bigger than us, right? We're just a little small company. Megabus is huge, and Bolt and Academy and all these companies, but service quality, fleet vehicle size, that's hopefully how we differentiate ourselves as a smaller operator, and doing more kind of marketing and looking at data and seeing where the demand is coming from and how do we kind of use social marketing to help us secure.
Well, I think your green story is a very good one. I don't know that there is anybody else out there which has such a green, proposition as far as bus are concerned, especially about the idling. And I think people would be very receptive to that. And then your proposition about ADA is also a very good proposition. I don't think other companies do that. So those particular segments could be well receptive to your service.
Also, I would lean forward with the woman-owned business as a marketing angle.
Yeah, right. So this is what I heard. I heard that we are generally supportive of this location and of this operator. There is a question of how do we ask them to contact the Port Authority, and do we make our response subject to the response of the Port Authority? I mean, the Port Authority could take 3 months to respond, right? So that's why I was asking them when they want to start. So who suggested the Port Authority question? Is that Jeffrey?
That was Jeffrey.
So what would you want to do, Jeffrey?
I don't know. I guess it's, can we?
Well, can we do both? Can we tell them they are okay?
Yeah, I think that, I guess it's okay, but our preference is the Port Authority.
No, but we want them to ask the Port Authority whether they have some vacancy, right?
Yes.
at the same time in parallel.
I mean, we could also.
So my issue with that though is that they're getting pretty much a free spot on the street versus, or a very underpriced, under market spot on the street versus what Port Authority charges for a slip. So why would they go from their spot on the street to inside Port Authority? I'm not looking at the balance sheet. I don't run the business. That's a concern to me. And that's always been a slippery slope for us.
Yeah, but at this point, neither the city nor us is in a position to force an operator to go in the Port Authority. So,
okay,
let's
do both then.
Right.
I did, as everybody said, this is a phenomenal presentation. There's so many good parts about this operator. Right. I'm not trying to make it, it's just the tracks that we take.
I want to say that, we've met with other operators who are not such good stewards of their, of their business. And also, this is immediately a much better location than a lot of other ones that have been proposed to us because it's away from, where we have a lot of congestion. I mean, there's the concerns about it being on the West Side Highway, but apparently it's not specific to this location. They don't really enter. I would like to ask a question of Christine. I know that I didn't really get into the details of Cuomo's proposal for the marshalling yards, but can we steer this recommendation to say, we would ultimately like to see a interstate terminal along the highway so that the buses don't come into the city and ride on our streets?
Well, I think that boat has sailed because the proposal from the Port Authority is that the long distance bus terminal is going to be between 9 and 10 or Dyer and 10.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's already
not worth pressing.
No, that's it. We have tried and tried and tried, and it's kind of over. They have decided on which location they are going to do it. We don't have a major problem with that. Everything is going to be inside. So I think we need to move on from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I've been raising my hand for 15 minutes. Can I get a question in?
Sorry.
Raise your hand. I didn't see your hand. Wait a minute. Where is
I'm not sure. I haven't been able to see him, but I know I've been hearing him on and on. Sorry, Rob, about that.
And he's not on the list of panelists, right?
No, I don't see him.
Right. I'm so sorry. I didn't have the information. Go ahead.
This is a side question. Dale touched upon it. Great presentation, by the way. A lot of good factors. Your idling technology, is that something your company developed, or is that something that you appropriated?
No, the dashboard and the reports and the Fleetmatics is a company called Sawcon. They do our GPS, they do idling, and they do kind of like mileage reporting.
What's the name of the company again?
Sawcon, SAUCON. So all of our Fleetmatics is done through there. Wi-Fi and all that stuff is kind of a central shop. And then from automatically shutting off the buses if they idle for more than 15 minutes, that's a kind of a configuration that you can go into the engine and do on any bus manufacturer you want. So our mechanic goes in there and he kind of codes that in.
Thank you so much for that information. I think this is great. I wish that all of our bus companies here in New York City, could require them to do that because we have laws, not quite like DC, but we do have laws on the books about idling. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I think this is a good input on things we may want to ask in the future. Not only of individual company, but when we're going to talk to DOT about asking for, a larger change, maybe we want to say, okay, those technology must be installed as a requirement, something like that.
Absolutely.
So do I have a resolution to approve this company and ask them to request from the Port Authority, even though this is not a prerequisite?
Yes.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Anybody opposed? Present and eligible? Okay. Adnan, thank you so much for this presentation. This was by far the most complete and the most professional presentation we ever got from a bus company. So kudos to you.
I appreciate that, I guess. Hey, thank you for your time, and I guess I'll let you guys get on to your next topics.
Okay.
I'm free to leave, right?
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so the next topic is something we have talked about already 2-3 times, which is, sidewalk and pedestrians. And there is no new news except that I wanted to make a proposal going forward. And the proposal would be that we create a survey that we send out to all of CB4 members. And we asked them about, first of all, what happened on the last snowstorm and what were the problems they encountered during the snowstorm, which I think is more of a recent event, and would be recent. People would remember what happened at the corners, on the sides. Was it clear? Was it not clear? How many sidewalks were not cleared at all, etc. Bus stop were a major problem. And then we add to that some general question about the sidewalks. And then we send it out and we get that information. And based on that information, then we look at the recommendation we wanted to make, and we make a more educated recommendation to as a letter. So that's my suggestion on what to do next step. Any thoughts?
I think this makes a whole lot of sense. It begins to line up the evidence that we'll need to make a strong case on the need for city stewardship of more pedestrian space.
Yeah, I think we need more information and more. Then we can make a separate one that we send to the whole city, on Twitter or whatever, and let people respond to that.
Exactly. It would be a good survey thing actually to put out given the responses we received back from the budget survey. This would be a very interesting, specific issue that people have visceral feelings about.
I mean, the last snowstorm was just a disaster. It was just
days and days and days.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't think we have to vote for that. We'll just go from there. And if anyone wants to help into designing, I'll circulate the survey to all of you so you can comment on that and see what we are doing. Now we are moving into, Viren, did you raise your hand? Brett?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say that yesterday after you left, we discussed equitable street issue, and task force is on board to actually work jointly with Transportation Committee.
Okay.
To discuss it further at the next meeting.
All right, that's great.
And in the meanwhile, we should do some sort of recap that some of the members have requested because they don't know the kind of data that supports the argument.
Right. Okay. So
and Christine, just FYI, Erica from Linda Rosenthal's office is here and is expressing an interest in partnering with us on the sidewalk equity issue.
Oh, great. Erica is always at the vanguard.
Hey everyone, it's Erica.
Hey Erica, how are you?
Dale and everybody. Yeah, anything you guys need for the sidewalk equity survey, happy to help. We're working really well with Katie Savage on sanitation equity, and so I think this just builds off of that as well.
That would be great. Yeah.
That's great. Dovetail. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then Brett had a comment.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the topic was going to be about exactly when it came to sidewalk maintenance and equity, but I immediately got very excited because I think there are a lot of tools out there that are good to do. I remember doing a research project back in grad school where I was going through my neighborhood and basically mapping out the quality of sidewalks, with accessibility as a major thing, you know, can you get a wheelchair on a sidewalk down the curb, things like that. And one thing I think would be a really good project to do, probably something if we had a graduate student intern, probably not hard for them to work up on some kind of GIS, to do something, you know, a map that we can make public, so community members can can basically report in live time, in real time, something better than 311 would do, where our sidewalks in our neighborhood have accessibility issues, overall quality. So we're basically getting some groupthink going to rate our sidewalks, so that we will have real data when we come back, and we can basically show the city, this is where our sidewalks are. The people in our community have marked where the potholes in the sidewalks are, where the curbs collect water, all these things. So if it's set up right, it's not a major it's not a major labor effort for us once it's set up, but we have to get that set up.
I think that's good. Viren, you were just waving your hand.
No, I was just trying to say that if that comes to fruition, I have access to a bunch of students because I teach a number of different places. And
That'd
they,
be awesome.
being architecture and design students, I think for a couple of credits and a few bucks, it would be amazing if we can bring them on board.
If you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to talk to you how we can try to pull in some students and explain a project and get them to figure out how to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very exciting. Okay, that sounds really good. All this participation is really heartwarming. I know that there are some nonprofits which are working right now on writing a letter to our elected official, which is essentially a follow-up to a letter we sent some time ago and for which we got a response. Janine, could you bring up the letter, the DOT letter? And we're now moving into the new business, new old business issues, but we got a letter from, no, it's not here. I don't see it. We had a letter where they talked about what they were going to do about neck downs. Do you remember that?
Let me look for it. Hopefully
okay. So anyway, we received the response from DOT on our letter on neck downs, the fact that, we had to get a partner and insurance, etc. And they said that they were looking at better ways to do it and simpler way to do it, but they are not there yet. We are also received bike corral notification. So 2 bike corrals were installed, 2 that we asked for, one at Brookfield and one at 23rd and 9. And so that's very exciting. And then we got notification of street seats. And I think there is one in front of Chelsea Market. That's the main one, right? So all those things are happening, which are getting me to, now would you, Janine, it made me think that we need to recap what we are doing, because we're always doing a lot of things, but we don't see the overall, the trees for the forest. And so maybe, Janine, can you open the recap of activity?
Sure.
And I'm sorry for the colors, but I kind of chose something that was working and I was a little lazy about it.
The presentation, you mean, right?
Yes, the presentation, yeah.
Christine, you are the least lazy person on this panel.
Thanks. But I mean, at a point of time when you are doing PowerPoint, and you have all these colors and so on, you say, oh, please. Is that working, Janine?
Sorry, it's freezing a little bit. Give me one moment.
Okay, right. Oh, it is in PDF too, if you want. No, you have it in PDF as well?
No, I only have the PowerPoint.
Oh. If you want to turn it over to me, I can do it. If you can let me present. Oh, I have share screen, right? Oh, no. You would have to give it to me. Am I able to present now? Oh, here.
Sorry, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, share. And then we're going to do this. Here. Okay. Talking about. I can make it much bigger. Right, here it is. So Janine maintains, so I just made it pretty, but really the big job is done by Janine, who is maintaining a running list of all the requests we're putting in. And she classifies them. And then we are tracking what letter is with that, and then what comes back, and whether it's done or not. So I took this running count of everything, and we organized by, you know, the bike corrals, bike lane, enforcement, intercity, parking, pedestrian ramps, public space, revocable consent, safety and flow, signage, street seats, street vendor, and transit. And what you can see is per year, the number of letters we wrote about those subjects. So these are not the result, these are the letters we sent. So a grand total of about 180 letters that we sent over the last 6 years, which is a hell of a lot. So I want to applaud, first of all, the energy of this committee for all this, and we're keeping everybody very busy, you know. This is, which is good. This is what we're supposed to do. So when you look at the actions distribution by category, and again, these are the letters, not the results, you're going to see that 30% of what we have done is about safety and flow. The next big one, 17%, is intercity buses, story of our life. 13% is parking. I was distressed about that, that we're spending so much time on parking.
Does that include sort of like loading zones and stuff, like parking requests or change of regulations, all that kind of stuff?
Yes. And then 10% was transit. And the next two are 8% on bike lanes, city bikes, 10% of transit, yes, 6% is street seats, and 5% is public space improvement, you know, 37th Street, etc. So, you know, I don't know what you think, but I think it's a pretty good, I mean, it's pretty good distribution and pretty aligned with our priorities. And so we are essentially spending the time on the right kind of stuff. Then I made it by year, show you in some years we did a lot of certain things. So let's say in 2015 and 2016, we did a lot of safety. That's when we started to have all our big safety letters, and then it go a little lower than that. And then 11 here is intercity buses is in more like in 2017. That was our big year for that. And then this blue thing, parking, was more in 2019. And public space improvement was more last year. So kind of give you a sense of when things happen. By the way, buses include the Port Authority stuff. And then we looked at the success rate. So as you can see, the green is the success rate compared to the blue is pending and the red is denied. And I think you can see in safety and flow, we've been really successful. We have 29 items which had been installed. Street seats, we've been successful. Transit, we've somewhat been successful. Parking, this is one of the places where we have the most denied. Intercity bus, we've been reasonably successful. And bike lane city bikes, we've been very successful. So these are what works and what doesn't work. Give you a sense of, where do you want to spend your time, if it's going to work or not. I have put in the Dropbox, you have 3 lists, one of the completed items, one of the denied items, and one of the pending. And so if you want to see that and see the details of what's behind the map, the charts, you can see that in those items. And the second thing, which is, where am I? Oh yeah, the second thing is that we had made a map some time ago of the safety. This is the map of all the split phase, split LPI and LPIs protecting intersection in our district. And I bet you that we are the district which has the most of those. So the green is a real split phase. The white is a split LPI. And then the blue are just LPI. And, I think this is a pretty good scorecard here for our neighborhood.
Well, it's great to see this data and these and the results.
Yeah, any comments you have, guys? This is
I have 2. Extraordinary.
Thanks, that was really informative.
Yeah,
Christine, I didn't know charts like that existed. That 3D year-over-year issue, that was just really. What can we do with it to show the value of the work? Yeah, we could share it with one of the local media outlets, but there's a direct in that wonderful chart, the line graph that showed the request and then pending, denial, and success rate is remarkable. And it's all about pedestrian improvements and pedestrian safety, the bulk of it. Meaning, how maybe not for the community board's use, but how can this information be made public for other entities to be aware of or other entities to utilize? Is that possible?
I mean, I have a suggestion on that front.
Yeah, Viren is raising his hand.
Go ahead, Viren.
No, I was going to make a suggestion. Maybe on CB4's board's website, we actually have this kind of information exchange link. And that would also encourage other committees to do something similar in terms of,
Right.
I was thinking along the same lines, like we could challenge some of the other transportation planning committees in other districts to show us their data and see how they've been doing.
Maybe another.
Not that it's like a contest, but that, like how it's working across the city. And
well, we could probably send it to Gail Brewer and say,
yeah,
this is what we did. Do you want to get the same stuff from everybody or blah, blah?
Gail loves data and
Yeah.
she loves when we mine data for results. So I think that's a great idea.
Do you think it would be helpful to send in a newsletter, one of the CB4 newsletters saying, this is a recap from transportation of actions?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so the resident can say, okay, they can open that and say, oh, okay, they have done all of that. Oh my God, etc.
Yeah.
Christine,
Also to give, I'm sorry, Viren, go ahead.
No, I would still suggest that it could be sent as a link, but I think it should be decided on the website so that it's a living document. Because it's going to
both.
Hopefully keep changing, yes.
Right. Well, on the website, when we created the website the first time, we had put for each committee, like, accomplishment last year, right? But then that was not kept up to date. And that's what should happen, is every year you should make a little bit summary of what you did and then put it up. And then people could look at it and say, oh, that's what they did last year.
No, but I'm suggesting a step further. It could be a living document. So as we go through the year, it can be updated periodically, quarterly, say, for example.
Yeah, quarterly or semi-annual. It's a lot of work, right?
Yes.
It's not, it doesn't happen like that. It's just a lot of cleaning of the data and the massaging, etc. But yeah, we can do that. Okay, so that's where we are. What else is on the old new business? We have first, this gentleman who was talking has an issue, so why don't you bring him over, and it would be your time, your turn to go. I'm going to stop sharing. Who was that? Janine, can you bring this gentleman over?
Yeah, Brian's coming over.
And
while
by
she's
the
doing
way,
that, I have my hand raised.
As Colleen is there on the call, I want to say thank you to Colleen, because a lot of things that we got there is because of Colleen and all the work she's doing for us. So thank you so much, Colleen, for that. Okay, so who was going to talk to us?
Hi, Christine. It's Brian Kinsella.
Hey, Brian, here you are.
Yeah, so this is my first committee
Welcome.
meeting for Manhattan Community Board 4, although I've been working very closely with Marisa and Holly Ann and several others in the community, especially post-pandemic, as well as the mayor's office with some of the emergency response work at the beginning of COVID as a former military officer, nonprofit leader, and small business owner here in Manhattan. I live in a building in New York City in Hell's Kitchen, has over 500 units, and we've had a pretty heavy uptick in criminal activity in the vicinity of 42nd and 9th, and we've been working closely with the local precincts as well as Port Authority police to address that. But one thing that Marisa and I have talked a lot about is the bus stop at the corner, the southeast corner of 42nd and 9th. It's gotten to a point where because of the fact that across the street there is a shelter, it's heavily occupied throughout the day and night with folks that are actively dealing drugs. There was a shooting within the last month there. There have been multiple stabbings. There have been other types of criminal activity. And, there are a lot of residents, to include on days where it's raining heavily or it's snowing, where, people can't even use the bus shelter because it's occupied by people who are actively, using drugs or drinking or doing other things. And so, she wanted me to, we spoke today ahead of this meeting, she told me to, represent that it's an emergency action. I'm not sure I quite see it as an emergency, but just something that should be addressed, given that, if residents can't even use it, not residents, but, community members can't even use it at all, especially in inclement weather, the elderly, et cetera, how do we think about, some type of way to actually, have it where it's either, moved, taken down, policed. I don't know the answer, but I wanted to bring it up in this forum and, have it noted and try to come up with a solution.
Okay. I think I see Colin as his hand up.
Actually, I had some other new business to bring up.
Oh, okay. Who else want to talk about that? David, you have your hand up?
I had my hand up from before, actually,
Oh.
I want to thank you for the wonderful charts, and just say for publicity, maybe when people talk about how bad the community boards are, this could show really how good we are and how hard we're working. This would take, fire. And my question to Brian, I believe it is, Kinsella, the bus stops are MTA. Do we have jurisdiction over with that, really, or that how would that work?
No, the
'Cause I
bus
sympathize with
shelter
them.
is a DOT function.
Oh, it is? Okay, I stand
Right.
corrected. But Christine,
So-
once again, thank you for that
Oh,
hard
thank
work.
you. Thank you. So Brian, you know, I totally understand what you're saying, and I have seen this bus stop abused. But I mean, why is the activity taking place in the bus stop? Because it's all transparent, right? So everybody can see what's going on there. Why is the level of I don't want to say crime, because this is really petty stuff, taking care of happening in this stuff?
Well, we've talked to the police precincts about this, and from what they have represented to us, I mean, aside from all the other issues with policing in New York City, let's take that out of the equation. Apparently, what's happened is that at that southeast corner of 42nd and 9th, there are two precincts that meet at that corner, as well as Port Authority. And so I guess what's happened is, because it's not in the heart of any given precinct, and Port Authority really doesn't use that as a focus area for their foot patrols, it's seen an actual heavy uptick in criminal activity. And there is this shelter, the Geffen House, across the street. And I think what's happened is, again, a former military officer, I'm actually a former police officer as well. I think what's just happened is that as criminal activity has picked up there, and there's been a lack of police presence and policing, it's just perpetuated and gotten worse. And I think as we've moved into this period of cooler weather, it's just become a safe haven for people to almost shelter in place, which it's just not being used for people who actually
Let me ask
need
a question. I'm not aware that there are two precincts there. The precinct, I mean, there are the 10th on the west and the north, Midtown South on the east, right? Are those the two precincts that you are talking about? And the Port Authority has nothing to do with that I know of.
Isn't this the 10th, the jurisdiction of the 10th precinct?
You know what we could do also, Jeffrey? It seems to me that we could get the bid a little more involved with that, because this is a portion of 42nd Street that belongs to the bid.
Do they have public safety officers?
Some, and then they can activate the police better than we do.
That's a great idea with the bids. I know that from 34th Street bid, what they'll do is they'll do cleanups, they'll have people around, so and they have private security, so, and they'll just keep on moving.
Yeah.
They don't let you tie things to structures or leave things unattended. They keep it.
No, but I mean, they have
awareness.
security officers, so I think we'll
Yeah,
pass
great
it
idea.
on. I mean, involve the Hell's Kitchen, Hudson Yard Hell's Kitchen bid, which is coming all the way to 42nd Street up to the post office, and then ask them their assistance, and we can also send a letter to the precinct and say we really need something to be done right away, and really people to focus on this.
Yeah, I just pulled up the some of the email traffic I had previously, as well as the New York City precinct map. So 9th Ave, and really technically on the southeast side, it falls under Midtown South precinct, right? And as you look across up to 43rd, that's where you have Midtown North
that's
precinct.
43rd, which is starting further up. So it's Midtown South, and it's the bid. So I think we can write a letter to both of them, or we can do that informally. We'll ask Jesse what is the best way to do it.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not at a point where I think, we need to just remove the shelter, but it is something that Jesse and I had corresponded alongside Holly Ann and Marisa, and just thought that we wanted to bring it up here to start. Again, we're talking to the to the precinct leadership about it as well, and just we're trying to raise it in as many channels as possible. And I don't want to take up any more of everybody's valuable time, but I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to raise this, and for all the hard work that you all do on behalf of our city.
And also,
Brian, one more thing. Our public member, Brian Weber, is recommending attendance at the Health and Human Services Committee meeting, which is tomorrow night, because street safety is on their agenda.
Which one?
Okay. Yeah, if there's a way to understand how to get access to that, I'd welcome it. I'm happy to put my email in the chat if anyone wants to send that over. I'd be happy to participate as well.
Janine, can you send the details of that meeting to Brian?
Yep, I'll send the link over just now.
Okay,
As
great.
well as have you been at the Midtown South precinct meeting?
I have not, ma'am.
That would be very. You can call me Christine. I feel like I'm old. That would be very, very helpful, because this is their precinct, and we'll send you a John Mudd contact. You know, Janine? You know John Mudd, right?
Yeah, I know him. I can send.
You could send the contact to Brian and then have them talk to each other. Okay, very
wonderful.
good.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Okay, so new business. We should discuss the DOB questions. That next step from Sarah. Sarah has put together a wonderful list of DOB questions to ask the DOB. It was in the Dropbox. I don't know whether you all looked at it.
Yeah, so folks remember from our last conversation around sidewalk sheds and scaffolding, this was one of the next steps we had talked about. So putting together an initial list of some questions we might want to put in front of DOB, potentially ask them to come speak with us. But so took a first pass at those questions based on some of the ideas that were raised, some ideas I had as well from conversations and research I'd done, and would love any reactions. I don't know if you're able to pull that up, Janine. There's just kind of maybe like 10 of them.
So the question is whether we want to write a letter that could be a admin letter, essentially. We would give that to Jesse, and Jesse would send that to DOB, and then we would try to set up a meeting with them and get all the information. And so if we are in favor of that, right, oh, here are the questions. We'll give you 5 minutes.
I mean, I think this is easily flipped into a letter with an introductory paragraph on the topic. And these are our questions.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom.
There are some great questions, but I think some of this has to go, the laws have to change with the city council. I'm not, I don't think they're just, a lot of them are DOB edicts. Some of it DOB has flexibility with, but some they might not.
Well, that's the point of asking them,
Okay.
to find out.
Yeah, from a conversation I had with a member of Ben Kellis's office, it did sound like there was some flexibility in just the rules DOP puts out around this process, and some things they could change without legislation. But yes, I think that is, I agree, it's part of the goal here is to figure out exactly what they say is in their control or not.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great piece of work.
Can I motion this into a letter?
Yeah. Do we have a second? Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Present, non-eligible? So Sarah, you may want to look at some, old letters. In fact, Blake had written a letter from the ACE committee to DOITT about 1 or 2 or 3 months ago. So that may be a good model. You know,
Okay.
we have observed problem, blah, blah, blah. And then here are the questions we'd like your input.
Sure, I'll take a look.
Okay. The next item before we open to the floor, do we have, wait a minute, attendees, we have 2 people who wanted to talk. Is that? Oh, Colleen, talking permitted, Colleen. Colleen Chattergoon, do you want to speak?
Hey, Christine, I'm here. Sorry.
Hi, Colleen. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to all of you. And I just wanted to say what an excellent work you did, and all of you, with putting together the stats. You stole all of my thoughts.
Okay.
You stole all of my thoughts. I wanted to say, put it on your website. Let the other community boards see the hard work that you're doing.
Yeah. Thanks. And Miriam, I put you on hold for 1 second. So another question we had was police parking. You know, last month we discussed, it was last month or some time ago? No, a few months ago, we discussed police parking. We sent a letter saying, hey, why don't you not park on sidewalk because it's illegal? And then we have not heard anything. But since then, there was a document published inside the NYPD showing that, confirming that parking on the sidewalk is illegal. And this was a memo coming from the top to the, so we have received a lot of complaints from some member of the community. And yesterday, we encouraged them to go to the precinct council of Town North, and they went and they made their point very nicely. And I should say that one of the speaker had put a tweet, and as the result of that tweet, there was a storm of about 250 tweets.
Oh my God.
All saying, oh my God, this is so frustrating, this is ridiculous. And then a police person apparently anonymously started to troll the discussion, and then he went crazy. So anyway, and then Jeffrey spoke, and Martin and Kathleen spoke, and the
first tweet, the originating tweet, was by Charlie Todd, who has appeared before this committee on this topic before.
Right.
And then a couple of other residents have provided us with photographs of the impediments that are being caused on a daily basis along 54th Street, where pedestrians, especially people with, with strollers or any disabilities, would be completely impeded by the circumstances, by the situations. And I think we all know that this also goes for other police precinct blocks, such as 35th Street.
Right, and 20th Street. So the good news was that the CEO, who is this new CEO we heard, was very good. She said, yeah, absolutely, it's not good, it's not acceptable. And, every time we have notified, we have fixed it. And so that was a very positive development. So the next step will be for Jesse to set up a meeting with the CEO, and we're going to suggest that they parallel park. And so that will be our next step.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Her response, I don't want to preempt and say whether or not she's going to be a good CO or not, but it was really, her language was different than we've ever really heard before, in terms of, she recognized there were cultural, like NYPD cultural issues at stake, and that takes time to change them. And I wondered if, like, from the committee standpoint, on a broader approach to the PD, if we start framing it in that way, in sort of the shift of culture and recognizing policies have existed under various times and places. And I was neat to see her reaction when I laid out the fact that pedestrians are the most vulnerable, yet it is their space that is always the most encroached upon. And thinking about how that shifted. And why can't they just double park on 11th Avenue where there's 4 moving lanes of traffic as opposed to blocking the crosswalk like they do on to get to do at Clinton Park? And I wonder how we can approach that in more of our workings with the PD, and then also just breaking it gets to the breaking the mindset of the car centric. It's a cultural shift there. So wondering if there's a way we can begin to work that into things.
So I want to weigh in on this because Jeffrey, I absolutely agree with you. I'm sorry. So we're not speaking about her in the third. Does anybody remember the new CO's name?
Deputy Inspector O'Malley, I believe.
O'Malley. So Deputy Inspector O'Malley came to, just to give everyone the background they may be missing, came to the full board meeting and spoke. And I kind of actually gave her a hard time. But with that said, I think she is the most, in my view, she is the most well-spoken and straightforward CO that I've ever interacted with in the NYPD. And she actually explained and understood the defund movement better than lots of people at that meeting. So I agree with you that we have a potential ally in Commanding Officer O'Malley. I would say that one way to frame this is to say, if your precinct acts like an occupying force on 54th Street, it will not engender trust with the community, because I think they're all about building trust with the community these days. And if you look at the barricades we were never notified of barricades. If you look at the way they park, and I know they're up against 2 things. They're up against the fact that they just don't have adequate parking. And so that would suggest we go to, they go, or we, bring them together with DOT to find solutions. And also they're gonna say, in some cases, it's a matter of urgency. Like the police officer it's an urgent matter and he has to squeal up to the precinct and leave his car 3 feet from a staircase. I don't buy that at all, but that's what we're going to face as potential pushback.
She didn't say that. She didn't say that on in the speech. She said, sometime, she said, first, it's not considerate of the officers. So she acknowledged that. She said, yeah, we have a problem because we have the cars, and what are we going to do with the cars? And she said also that there is a lot of vandalism of cop cars. And that's why, from a cop car standpoint, they prefer to put it close. So I think, what I'd like to do is now to bring it to a level of technical issue. You have so many cars, and if you put them this way, does it fit or doesn't fit? Something, trying to find a first solution for them, something that you could say yes to, right? And which maybe not, the whole street is changed, maybe it's just the north side is changed, or maybe it's just the northeast side is changed. I mean, we start with a segment of the street and we say, okay, let's see how it works. And then we go from there. And give her an opportunity to say, look, we have to negotiate with the community and, as you say, gain their trust. And this is the gesture, and it's not too onerous. So that's my thought about the next step. And then see what she says, because she may be speaking really well and we still need to see whether the actions are aligned. I'm always very anxious to see the actions. So that's what's going on in there. And Colin, you had a new business.
Yeah, I do. It's relatively small, and I hate to follow you and Sarah in my new business, but I guess it was this month, our last full board meeting, a representative from Manhattan West joined and had a few words to say. And it got me thinking about a situation that I found myself in at Manhattan West a couple of weeks ago. I was going to Whole Foods on my bike, and I came down 9th Avenue and tried to park my bike, and the private security guard said that wasn't allowed anywhere on the block. And I walked around whole block, and I didn't see any bike parking on this brand new development.
No, yeah, that's where a bike corral has just been installed.
Did it? I didn't see anything.
Okay, we need to check, because the bike corral was, you remember that when we did the approval of the consent for their bollards, we said, hey, you have to install a bike corral there, and I asked specifically for that. And now we got the email from DOT. So Colleen, is it confirmed that it's installed? Can you tell us?
You know what, Christine, I'd have to check with my colleague Dennis tomorrow. I'll find out from him if it's confirmed. I mean, if it's installed, but it looks like it has been.
And
that's what I thought.
Where was that? I guess.
I think it was, I'll tell you where it is. Bike corral notification. Here it is.
Great. 5
Manhattan West.
There's also a bike parking area right by the steps over by the residential tower. It's as you come right off the steps to go up or down the platform, it's right there, but it's right out front of the residential tower too. But you have to walk on the sidewalk from 9th Avenue to get there and then cross over to the residential tower because the road's partially closed.
Okay, apparently I missed this. I guess I was a little turned off by the security guard basically shooing me away.
Right.
So, and then I realized, I walked all around, and I eventually walked to the front of Whole Foods on 10th Avenue and parked my bike by a signpost or whatever.
Right.
Angry that I couldn't find a bike parking in the whole place, but apparently I didn't look hard enough. So.
Well, we need to
solving issues, I guess.
Colleen, yeah, because I remember making a big deal about that.
I'll confirm, Christine. I'll get back to you in the morning.
Yeah, it's exactly what we told them. We told them you have this huge space and there is no bike parking. So they have a huge bike parking inside the parking, by the way, on 31st Street.
Available to the public?
I don't know that.
Okay. All right.
That would be interesting to find out.
Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Viren, were you?
I don't know if this is the right time or right place to sort of bring it up, but I'd mentioned to you, Christine and Dell, my students did an amazing set of projects for PS 76. And I don't know if public space falls under transportation or it falls under waterfront and park.
The parks committee.
All right. So I was just wondering if the board members might be interested in looking at some of the work.
No, send it.
Jan, you should absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah, Jeffrey is on.
I co-chair with Marty the Cat, so you can. Our February agenda already has quite a few items on it, I believe.
Yeah.
But we would love to have you and our students put it on the agenda, and we'll take it up formally.
So yeah, that'll be good for the students. I actually want them to make the presentation. They really did amazing set of projects. And I, just so that you know, Hudson River Park Trust actually sent 3 people to attend 2 of the reviews, and they were very impressed. Not that they actually would be able to implement any of those ideas, but they're sort of amazing ideas.
Okay, well, that's great. And then we have
me, Miriam.
Yes, Miriam, I'm so sorry.
Okay. By the way, is Marty DeCatz here by any chance? Okay. I've presented about this before when we met in real life before the pandemic about my concern about the bicyclists and endangering people with disabilities, pedestrians, seniors. And I think I even gave out to the attendees that day an article about the increase in accidents and this goes back pre-pandemic, before the increase in biking. I think it was 14% in 2019 over 2018 and 169 accidents, but it didn't hit pedestrians, but it didn't say what kinds of hits. My point is this is continued with the increase in biking, which I support. I'm a member of Transportation Alternatives. I am very much for anything that is not a car. But I am very concerned. And recently I'm a member of Downtown Adapt, which is a disability advocacy organization that are on this issue also, and had actually posted the testimony to the city council on 11:30. My computer is not talking to me, so I am having trouble copying and pasting from my cell phone. And so I sent it today to Jesse Bodine. I don't know if he's present, if he wants to put it on the chat, but so others can see it, or if I could email it to somebody. The point is that there's a real concern about the bicyclists going through the red lights on the sidewalk, going the wrong way. Now, I'm in Chelsea, and I'm talking about Chelsea. I know there are issues in other parts of the city, and I know also bicyclists have been, but it's been borne down on them, and they've been singled out in lower income areas where there are no good bicycle lanes. And that's a separate issue and a serious issue. I am talking about Chelsea, where I live and walk around, and I am concerned about it's become the new normal. And I've stood there watching the bicyclists, and almost all of them are now going through the lights. And I recently had back surgery. I'm very unstable on my feet. There have been several near hits. And I'm certainly not the only one. When I speak to people at senior centers, Hudson Guild, it's a very serious issue. I'm not sure, I'm not asking for police department involvement. We know the outcome of that, possibly DOT, possibly licensing bicyclists, as the scooters are being now licensed and they have to take training. I have approached a number of political figures, including Brad Holman, who was very receptive, and he said, if I have a good plan, get back to him. And Corey Johnson. I think this is an issue that affects a lot of people, and I don't have a solution, but I present it because I'm on 8th Avenue and be 20th and 21st with all the sheds and all the other problems there. And I am often afraid to cross the street. When the light is in my favor, the bicyclists are just going through it. Sometimes I'll have to wait 5 minutes till there are no bicyclists in sight, and I know I can cross. And this is something that I think is going on through a lot of the city, but I am talking about Community District 4 in Chelsea, where I live and walk around, and how to handle it. It has become the new normal. Almost all the bicyclists now run through the lights. When their streets were open, that was an invitation to go, which I support, but I also support safety for myself and for pedestrians, for people with disabilities. Kathy Collins, who some of you know, was going to speak tonight, but she couldn't. I have sent this to some of the people who I am involved with on disability rights issues. They've had copies of it. It was submitted to the city council, and their point is that everybody has to follow the lights. Everybody, it endangers people with disabilities, just everything I said, and they are advocating for licensing bicycles. I have been at community board meetings with the police department there, and they said they would look into it. I'm not advocating for that, but nobody looked into anything. And I've been on 8th Avenue standing with several policemen, and I'd say, see that, see that, see that, we see it. One policeman came up to me and I said he was hit by a bike too, but they were told, and this is Chelsea neighborhood, not other parts of the city, to prioritize more serious infractions. But this is, to me, a safety issue, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up some stats to see what's happening in Chelsea.
I have looked for information online. I have, and I'm not that adept a researcher. I don't know if this is being tracked, but not everything is always reported or tracked. I don't know what's out there. I know that I did see that article in Spectrum, which I gave people copies of at one of the meetings when we met at 42nd Street. And this was pre-pandemic, when there was an increase of accidents and pedestrians being hit by bicyclists. And the bicyclists have multiplied, which I support. But I also support some reaching out about safety. I have gone to transportation alternative meetings. I've met with Danny Harris in person and on Zoom. He has that article too, and he emailed me back, yes, this is a serious issue. Miriam has never said a word publicly or reached out to his members about that issue. And this is very much a Vision Zero organization that
Miriam,
represents.
I just pulled up the stats on the, can I still share my screen?
Hey, Christine, this is Rob. Less than 12 weeks ago, I actually was about to cross 23rd Street at 8th Avenue, and I've actually witnessed a girl following another guy on a bicycle run through the light. She hit a car. She wound up getting a concussion. She wound up hitting her head into the window shield. Her bike was thrown across the street, and she dislocated her shoulder. It was really, really bad.
But then she ran a red light, right?
She was on a bicycle, wasn't paying attention, headed north on 8th Avenue. She was following someone else who ran a red light, and she literally plowed into the side of a car, threw her up. Her head went through the window shield. I was a licensed EMT. I was the first one on the scene. I did what I could until the actual EMTs got there. But yeah, she dislocated her shoulder, had a concussion. It was really, really bad. She was out bleeding horribly.
Crash, but she did something illegal. Now we're talking about pedestrians and bike. I think it's a slightly different.
On 23rd and 6th Avenue, was hit.
Wait. I don't think we should go every example one by one because we could be there the whole night.
I know. I don't.
So let me speak just a little bit, right?
I was just making a statement that people are running red lights, even on like 23rd and 9th Avenue, 24th and 9th Avenue. You take your life in your hands crossing that road. People will just plow through. If maybe this committee can come through an idea of saying, hey, let's license all bicycles. Let's go through city bikes, private. You do like a once a 5-year thing. You pay for it. And then that way we're able to track and maybe get the people who do the meters to actually issue citations. Just an idea.
All right, that's one of the ideas out there. So back to facts. So the stats on pedestrian hit by bicycle and injured in January in 2019 there were 9 pedestrians for the whole city. Oh no, for Chelsea, and then for in this year it was 3. Okay, and as far as killed, there was 1 pedestrian killed by a bike in last year, I mean 2019, and there were none. All of that, these are the numbers for Chelsea. I will send you the link, Miriam, to find that information. It's in New York City Crash Mapper, and you can see it by vehicles. So I'm just giving you the background. We heard what you have to say. As anybody here on the committee, a suggestion about that? Because my response is essentially it's an NYPD issue. There is nothing else we can do. But anybody else has another idea? I mean, we heard the idea of licensing, and I don't think we can license for just CB4. So.
Christine, I have worked with Miriam on accessibility issues of the subway, and I know she's a really steadfast advocate. And I obviously am a bicyclist. I just talked about that. I am a transportation advocate, and even I recognize that there does seem to be a perception of a safety issue. Sorry, my dog is going crazy right now. I think people have tried for years to do something about this. And cities and states have proposed some legislation. There has been, various attempts to impose fines. I'm not sure anybody has registered bikes yet. I think two things. Number one, I worry about anything that's going to depress bicycle ridership, because I think that we need as much bicycle ridership as possible. I think we need as many people out of cars, and that cars are the bigger problem here. They kill more people, they're worse for the environment. And I think it's such a hard issue, right? Because like, what do you do in this situation? I think it's something that we do need to grapple with. I don't have any solutions for it, but I do want to say that, there is a perception out there about a safety issue, and I think that works against people who want more bikes and who want more safe bike infrastructure. Because if there are, people like Miriam, people living in Chelsea who are, afraid of bikes, then we hear from them, and then it's, the problem compounds, and it's harder to, advocate for bikes, and I think it does us a disservice, right, as a community who wants more infrastructure to have this problem. And so I don't know, I guess I'm just on a soapbox without a solution, but I don't know. I just want to say I hear Miriam, and I think that, sometimes there, and also, like, hell, I've done stupid things on a bike. Like, I almost got hit by a car the other day because I thought I had more time running through a red light, and a car almost hit me. Like, and that was my own fault. And stuff like that happens all the time. So I don't know. That's all I have to say. Sorry.
I agree with you, Colin. I do think
Hold on, Miriam, I'm sorry. I want to hear from the other people.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dale?
Colin, I think you actually raised some good points, and I do think there are some ways in which we can amplify, encourage, promote a culture of compliance among cyclists. And it's pretty complicated, but we've looked at other initiatives in the realm of cycling in New York City. We looked at the model of a citywide plan for cycling and reviewed the Oakland plan. And I think part of the problem is that that whole compliance kind of, there isn't like a built-in apparatus for compliance. And I think we can look to factoring it in when we, talk about our, when we set out our priorities for how the city can be made safe for both cyclists and pedestrians. So I would just flag this as a priority when it comes to addressing our cycling infrastructure.
What is interesting is that in the stats here, this year, in 2020, there were 3 pedestrians injured by bike, but there were 8 cyclists injured by bike, which means they injured themselves. They fell off.
Or other cyclists.
Or another cyclist.
Or, yeah, but most of it. So that's a very, this is more than double. And that's all in Chelsea again. This is not citywide. That's what's really infuriating is on one hand, there is this perception of this is really dangerous. And on the other hand, the numbers don't show it. And so I compare the cyclists to bees. You know what it is? The bees are really good. They are good, give you some honey. They help, they go from plant to plant. They are helpful but as soon as you see a bee next to you, you start, moving around and saying, I don't want it, it's going to hurt me, it's going to hurt me. So I think this is exactly the same thing. And I don't have a solution for that. I don't think anybody is, Sarah has a solution for the bee.
I got an idea.
Yes, I definitely have a solution. No, I will say the one thing I can think of is, I think, this point that Colin's made that folks are making could just be wrapped in when we talk and advocate for better bike infrastructure. I think actually promoting pedestrian safety, which we already sometimes talk about, but also this point around the perception that bikes are dangerous. The more bike-specific traffic lights you have, frankly, the more likely bicyclists are to not run red lights when they see a bike-specific red light. I bike all the time. I am personally also more likely to stop when I have my own signal. Also, if the DOT were to decide to invest in, at critical pedestrian-heavy intersections, or where there's been a number of accidents, specific signs calling out like "stop on red" with a bike image. I think again, reiterating that, I think just from psychological studies, does tend to help encourage people to actually follow rules, as opposed to when they don't see explicit directives that are clearly for them, as opposed to a general red light that's clearly for a car.
I have long believed that, and I don't have a proof, but I believe, I'd love to do the test, that if the traffic light was before the intersection, people would respect it much better.
Like you said, Christine, earlier.
In Europe, you have the intersection, you have the traffic light, or Park Avenue. The traffic light is on the side before the intersection, before the pedestrian crossing. So, clearly it tells the driver or the cyclist, you're supposed to stop here. Here, the traffic light is on the other side of the intersection. So it's like, well, I'm going to go in the pedestrian crossing, I'm going to cross, it's getting to be really soft there. And I'd love to do that test of whether moving it in would change the behavior of people.
Like you said, Christine, earlier, perception versus reality. I mean, and, I think maybe that's what we can do as a suggestion, what you just said. And I loved your comparison to bicyclists as bees. I guess that makes me the queen bee. But, but I mean, I think maybe that's what we could suggest, what you just suggested, making our avenues similar to Park Avenue in terms of the light.
It's much more expensive in lights because you have to install more lights,
But that's the whole problem. We need road redesign, and you have pedestrians pecking at cyclists and people, like you said, like bees. Part of that reason, the perception out there, I mean, you look at the numbers, clearly cyclists are less harmful than cars. I don't see people pedestrians ranting about cars. I mean, this is, it's almost ridiculous. I mean,
let's keep.
So I think we ought to start with what we can at least ask for is the lighting that you asked for, Park Avenue style. So be more equitable.
I also think that it would limit the gridlock too, which would be very helpful.
Hey guys, I've got an idea. I'm off at 24th and 9th Avenue, and we have an intersection where they have got, I'm very pro-bike. I want to see more bikes on the street, less cars. If we could get rid of cars totally, I'd be happy in Manhattan. But if you ever cross 9th Avenue over on 24th, you're getting almost ran over by electric bikes that don't have any lights. This happens at night. It's poor visibility. Is there any way we can ask the local police officers to just try this out once or twice and see if it sort of kind of, inhibits people from speeding? If we can have maybe someone at like 24th and 9th Avenue sit there with a gun, because there are people who go 25, 35 miles an hour on their electric bikes, and then hit them on like 22nd Street and radio them and say, okay, this guy coming down, pull him over, and then give them a citation for speeding on a bike, and do that on 8th Avenue as well as 9th Avenue. And I think that will make people who locally take bikes think, oh, maybe I shouldn't blow this light, and maybe I should slow down and not, almost knock someone over at 35 miles an hour.
So what I suggest you do is you attend the police precinct, the 10th, and you tell them exactly where you want to do it. Yesterday, people were doing that at the north. precinct, and they said, on that portion of the sidewalk on 57th Street, it's not good. There is a lot of problems, etc. And the officer said, well, we'll go. So you should go to the office precinct, the police precinct.
I've done that already at a community meeting with the 10th, and I have never seen anybody. And I told them where I live and what streets I was concerned about. I also wonder about the statistics. The article that I had 169 people hit, pedestrians hit by bicyclists, and I don't think everything is reported that happens.
I
don't have alternate numbers.
Miriam, Christine
Okay.
was speaking about Chelsea, just for clarification.
Yeah.
My numbers were Chelsea. Okay, I think that was a good discussion. It's a very, very complex subject between the, Brett. Brett has some comments.
Yeah, I'm going to be different for everyone else because I actually do have the solution. And when I say solution, I mean, it's not perfect because there's some idiots out there who are always going to be the outliers. The reason why I'm saying it's the solution is because it's not a specific fix. Back in the dark ages before we had protected bike lanes, it was really scary biking around. Anyone who biked with any regularity, you had at least one story about that time they get hit by a car. And one thing I recall when we first had the city's first protected bike lane in our neighborhood on 9th Avenue. And DOT came back with the particular statistic that really stuck with me. They said before they installed the protected bike lanes, 4 out of 5 bicycles on 9th Avenue were on the sidewalk and not in the street. And then after they installed the protected bike lane, 4 out of 5 bicycles were in the bike lane and not on the sidewalk. So on the one hand, you can look at it and say, oh, that's a great success, 400% increase of bicycles that are released in the street. But at the same time, 1 out of 5 bicycles was still on the sidewalk. So if there's one thing that we can learn from that, though, is where we get the progress of more compliance is where bicyclists feel safe because there is something protecting you of all the things that could potentially go wrong on the street. Those protecting bike lanes took care of most of the potentially fatal issues if someone were to be compliant. The double parked cars, the ambulances that were pushing cars to the side, those protected bike lanes did a whole lot for bicycle safety. It's a whole lot easier to comply. So the solution, as far as I can tell, is we all need to keep advocating for bicycle safety, put the bicyclist safeties ahead of other initiatives that might compromise safety. And once we have that, we're not going to get 100% compliance. There's still going to be idiots. There's still going to be people think that their e-bike is a standard bicycle that fits in the bike lane and can put other people at risk. But it does greatly increase the likelihood that people will comply if they feel safe when they are compliant. That's my solution.
Look,
it's Colleen from DOT. I just want to add that we have our street ambassadors that would go out and work closely with the local precinct to do some cyclist outreach initiatives. And what we have done is that, the problematic corridor, we go with the NYPD, we distribute materials, whether it's belts, if a cyclist is riding in the opposite direction, we will stop them and let them know. It's based on educational. And I mean, you find that it works, but as Brett just mentioned, you'll have a few that, will not be compliant. It's a give and take. And, we're more than happy to do that. Miriam, if you want to email Janine the location or let us know the hot spots, and, maybe we can schedule something late in the spring to see what can be done with outreach.
It isn't a few bad actors. It's become the new normal since the streets opened up at the beginning of the pandemic, and more people are biking and more people are
but
going.
Miriam, we can't deal with generalities. So if you have like a corridor or a street where you are more,
I live on 8th Avenue on 21st. I walk around 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue. I walk around the neighboring streets in Chelsea.
So Miriam, if you could write that down to Janine with specific blocks, that would be really helpful.
All right, should I just put it in the chat room? Can she take it from that?
I can take it from the chat. That's fine.
Sure. Okay.
Colleen, that's great that the street ambassador program is taking that proactive.
And what about that, Robert, you were talking about 24 and what? What was the intersection you were concerned about?
9.
It's 24th and 9th.
Yeah, so that's another one. Okay. And then I see in the text, Melody's, Brian is saying if the traffic flow was timed to accommodate bikes as well as pedestrian, there would be less bikes going through red lights, which is probably very true. And that's something we have not asked yet, but that's something we could ask. We could ask to make 9th Avenue timed for bicycles and pedestrians and see what happens. Right? That would be a test. You want to rediscuss that next month, or you want to?
Eric Eisenberg. I'm sorry, Eric Eisenberg has his hand up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I was going to say something which, or at least half of what I was going to say was already mentioned. There was a mention of people riding their bikes on sidewalks, riding the wrong way, and I think that's almost necessarily a result of the incomplete bike lane infrastructure that we have. For example, going to 10th Avenue, they've been promising a northbound bike lane for ages, but it's not happening. So there's no way to go north. So instead, if you want to be safe, you would probably go the wrong way on 9th or 11th.
On the sidewalks, because
or you'd go on the sidewalk.
Eric,
The other issue.
Go ahead.
The other issue with the protected bike lanes not providing enough consistency to where the bikes are going to go. They're going to go in the protected bike lanes. Is that they're constantly blocked. There's a really great solution out there. It was proposed recently by Stephen Levin. Intro 2159-2020 allows citizens, much in the way of the idling program, to report blocked bike lanes. The DOT has spoken out against it because they're scared of people getting into fights over it, which doesn't make any sense when the idling program, people are there for 4 minutes and they couldn't find an example of a fight for that. And the blocked bike lane would take seconds to report. So anyways, anything that can be done to get behind that bill, any way to involve other community boards would be great, especially now that the DOT is fighting it because they want to protect the placard class, which gets into the cops parking in the wrong spot issue that we had earlier.
So maybe what we put on the calendar, on the agenda for next month, is to look up this proposal and then talk about the other items we have talked about, which is the timing of the lights, moving the lights up, and whatever else we can think of for improving the compliance by changing the environment. Obviously, increasing the number of bike lanes, right? But this is bigger. So maybe we can make a comprehensive recommendation of how to improve the compliance.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Miriam, thank you so much for raising the issue again, and we'll put it on next month's agenda. Okay.
Okay, and I'll see if I can fix my computer to copy and paste and get some of my articles.
And Eric, can you put in the chat the reference of the introduction of the bill introduction?
It's
Hello?
not.
No, I'm talking to Eric. Eric.
Oh, okay.
He's gone. Anyway, we can probably find that. Or Colin, Colin, do you know that bill?
He put Eric cited the
Oh,
bill.
here it is. Here it is.
But not, yeah.
Janine, if you can put that in your notes, that'd be great. Okay, very good. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Great job, everybody. Bye-bye. Wonderful. So
Thank
excited
you.
to be in 2021.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy
Brand new
inauguration day.
day.
Sounds good.
And I put the pearls for Kamala, right?
Happy inauguration day.
Yes.
Can't wait to see what the next 100 days brings.
Janine, if you can send me your notes, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll email you.
Okay.
Have you figured out how
And
to
Dale, if you have some
download that?
notes as well, right?
I have notes. I'm gonna like
Okay. Cool.
spruce them up and send them to you tomorrow.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.